in that respect, has hurt that part of the business. But I'm really glad I have this other part of the business to keep us, diversification has kept us going. So, and this is all, as far as I'm concerned, y'all are all new blood. I'm happy to see you. And I hope that we treat you right and you come back. And what I've done is, we've offered to let y'all have it, I said this in the beginning, not to be redundant, to have a meeting here, you know, once a month or whenever y'all have them. We're going to give you more room and not crowd you up so badly the next time. But I heard a couple of things, and I don't want to get off too far. Somebody talked about organic chickens. We've got organic food. We finally started buying that Coyote Creek, and we sell that now here. We didn't do it for years and years because I didn't wake up. We have a feed mill. We make feed, so why would I bring competition in? But it's not competition. The people that are buying that stuff are not buying our feed anyway. So we're selling it now, and I was really surprised at how it took off. So we have that to offer. We got all this other stuff. We got meds and everything that you might need. We've got, I hope, a little bit of information just from being there. Osmosis. If you're awake and paying attention, you're going to learn something just being around a place like this, because you hear almost anything. But I've seen some things. There's a man named Bill Hilgers, and I don't know if any of y'all know him. He's a lawyer here in town. He's got a pretty good organic type operation out there. And I went out there and looked at it last Thursday, and he has the most amazing chicken setup that I've ever seen. He's got Buff Orpington hens, and he's got a coop probably as big as this little area that we're in. And he has a mister system set up. He's got PVC pipe with mist coming down, and he lets the chickens roam out there, and then they've got their roost boxes they go into at night. But he throws down foxtail millet or these other things that he wants to grow there, and that mist is on. Of course, it's 100 degrees outside. It's like a jungle. In 5 days, that stuff comes up. Those chickens are eating that stuff, and they're fertilizing it. It's the most amazing thing I've seen. So I don't get out much. I'm stuck here, you know, trying to sell stuff.
The hen scratch that you sell comes up. Some of the things
Yeah.
there, and they
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah, that's right. That's just corn.
It's kind of like a millet or something.
Right. There's corn and there's milo and sometimes some wheat and oats and hen scratch. And sometimes those things, well, that corn chops is probably not going to come up because we've already ruined it by cracking it open. But again, we welcome you here. And I haven't talked for 30 minutes, I don't think yet. But any questions that anybody has, or just
yeah, could you talk a little bit about the other kinds of feed that you have? And I mean, could you talk about, like, what do you have that's genetically modified and what's not, and what's raised with conventional means, and do you have anything that's raised in a more natural way? Or
let me tell you, I'll tell you about that to the best of my ability. When we buy corn, when we buy 10 million pounds of corn, it comes from Iowa, there's none coming from Central Texas because of this abysmal drought we're in. We have to buy that from the Midwest. We bring it in on rail cars, and we put it in these big silos down there at the feed mill. But we cannot make organic feed if we wanted to, because when you make totally organic feed, you have to have the chain of custody of that stuff. You've got to go back to a field that somebody grew that stuff on for 3 years without a single chemical, didn't put anything on it. They've got to know that corn is clean, that it wasn't genetically modified. And they've got to follow it all the way through. It's got to go to a feed mill, kept separate. It's got to go to a feed mill that's never had any chemicals in it or any additives in it. And then it's got to be bagged and sent out for sale. So we can make natural, what they call natural feed. There are people here in town that I sell quite a bit. There's people like Kim Alexander Family Farm and all. They make a natural feed, but they can't control the corn. They don't want. Let me start over. Y'all have time? All right. When we make a feed, let's start at the beginning. We bring the corn, the milo, whatever's going to be in that ration in there. Whether it's a horse feed, whether it's a cow feed, sheep and goat, hogs, whatever it is, chickens, whatever we're going to do. We bring it in there, and we dump it in there, we take it up and put it in a reel, and we put it in these big elevators. The elevator lifts it up. That's that high leg you see on every feed mill. Goes in these bins. And then the chef, if you will, the guy that's making the food, he's got these formulas, and he punches all this stuff in. And then if you've got cattle or horses, most feed mills will have something called a vitamin mineral pre-pack. And you've got people like Purina and all the big people that make this stuff. They send it to you because you don't have people on your staff that can sit around and weigh this stuff out. You know, it's pre-made. So you dump that in, you you put your corn in there, your milo, all your stuff, in your big mixer, and then you dump this pack in there. And at that point, it becomes not natural in the lingo that we use today. But now what Alexander and these people do, they still have to get that same grain and stuff. But they bring their own Redmond conditioner, Redmond salt, all these organic type sea salt and stuff, and they put that in there. So that's considered natural. And there's nothing wrong with it. The problem that you've got with GMO stuff is it's going to be awfully hard to, that Coyote Creek stuff I got there is 2 to 3 times as much what our regular feed costs, because they have to have all these guidelines and follow all those things that we just got through talking about, and that's tremendously expensive. You know, the economies of scale are just not there for that kind of stuff. That's why they have to pay a premium for that stuff. But there's a market for it. So I'm a merchant. I'm going to sell it. If people want it, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I don't want to die either, have a hand going out the top of my head. But you know, that's why we're here. But back to the feed, we run it back through there. And when you make like a chicken, like let's talk about laying pellets. We do all that stuff, and we put our little chicken pre-mix in there that all these guys, these scientists sitting in this room, deem to be the best ration for those chicken. We know they need about a 60% for laying eggs, which is ovulation. That occurs in these chickens, and you don't need the rooster. We'll clear that up right now. So, and then it's like making a cookie. That's what you're doing. You put all this stuff in there. You blend this thing into a big mess, grind it all up, and then you cook it. And you run it. You've got this thing called a die. There's a big wheel. It's got a bunch of little holes in it, and the feed comes through here, and it's hot. I mean, it's pushed through there, and that die is about that big, and that thing is boiling hot. And that's pushing it through, and it cooks that stuff. It goes out here this end, a chopper chops it off and drops down to another layer and falls into a cooler where it cools. And then it goes to a bagging line, and it's bagged and brought up here for sale. If you're making cookies is all you're doing. When you're making cubes, when you're making chicken. Now, when you make a crumble, you know, like chick starter, that stuff that's crumbled up, there's not a crumble machine. You have to make feed in a pellet. You bring it out, and then you put it in a hammer mill, and you beat it up. So that's another step. The organic feed that you see up here is not even pelletized. They call that flour. It's just if you look at that, some people are shocked when they first buy that stuff because they're not used to seeing it. But I've got these large growers or breeders or chicken raisers that I send this stuff to in my big bulk trucks. When we take it out there, it's just like flour coming out of there. Every now and then you see a piece of corn, but for the most part, it looks like a meal. Well, just a minute, I'll show you. This is what it looks like. It looks like a mistake. See? It looks like cornmeal. And a lot of people are taken aback when they see that for the first time. But that's what most of the big houses, that's what they're going to use, because it costs another $50 a ton to pelletize feed, or about. So this does the same thing. And a lot of these birds that you see in these laying houses have been DB'd because they don't want to, which doesn't sound good, but it sounds cruel, and I know that. But chickens that are put in these tight confines, they're cannibalistic, and they pick each other, so that's why they do that. And those birds can eat this kind of stuff because they scoop it up. They do quite nicely. So.
We have a question over here about how long would a bag like that last, or how much feed someone, while you're on feed, how much feed per bird would you say from when they're young and going up?
Well, if you got a broiler or a broiler or just a laying bird, if you're gonna one bird is probably 2 to 3 pounds a week, probably something like that. Probably what they're gonna eat. But see, you've got broilers and you've got, most of y'all are raising for eggs, right? You're not raising meat chickens. But if you feed broilers, that's you in a whole different room in the house. You got to go someplace else to do that because they eat so much more. But layers what you have. But that's how we make feed.